Hey everyone, it's James from the Fit RV, and I've brought Lance around to the shop because we're going to do a little project on the shower. Okay, so here's the deal with the shower. If you've had an RV for a while, you know that the best way to shower in an RV is to get yourself wet, turn off the water, lather up, turn the water back on, that sort of thing. And it saves a lot of water, and manufacturers know this, so on most shower heads in RVs, there's a little shutoff here. And that shutoff basically prevents you from having to adjust the hot and cold water to get the temperature just right when you start the shower, and you don't waste as much water that way. That's great. But in ours and in previous RVs we've had, there's a little problem when you shut off the water at the shower head. It took all the strength I had not to fall apart, just trying hard to... Oh! God, that's cold! Ah! Yeah, the blast of cold water when you turn it back on, or in some cases it could be even hot water. I have a theory about what causes that, and it's that the pressure of the hot and cold water are different, and so when you stop the flow at the shower head, the cold water backs itself up into the hot water line, leaving you with nothing but cold water when you turn the faucet back on. So I have an idea on how to fix that using a check valve. But before we do that, I want to actually test the pressure here at the shower head, and we'll see if my theory is correct. So let's do that. Okay, so here's how we're going to test my theory. I've got this water pressure meter kind of temporarily hooked up here on where the shower would go. And I've got a towel because I'm kind of expecting it to leak because I just did it like quick like. So my theory is that the pressure of the cold water is greater than the pressure of the hot water, and that's causing the water to back up when the shower head is shut off, down the hot water line, and hence all the cold water. So we've got the pump on. We can see that the cold water is bouncing between 40 and almost 60 psi when the pump cycles. Okay, so that was the cold water, so now let's try the hot. Notice here the pressure of the hot water is only hovering at about 20 psi. So definitely the cold water is coming out at a greater pressure than the hot. So that's what the problem is. I'm going to install a check valve on the hot water. So let's head into the shop and pick up some tools. Okay, so before we head out there, let me show you the tools and parts you're going to need. Now the first thing you're going to need, obviously, is this check valve. This is a low lead brass valve by Camco, and thankfully the threads are along the same way I need the water to flow. You will need that and some Teflon tape. You'll need that regardless of the RV you've got. Then you'll need access to the underside of the sink. In our RV, in order to do that, I need a screwdriver, a razor blade scraper, and a gasket and some silicone to replace the cabinet when I'm done. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is open this cubby because I need access to the faucet under here, and we're going to remove this gasketing. Okay, now that we've removed that gasketing, we've exposed a bunch of screw heads. Grab your screwdriver and let's remove these screws. Here's a tip. When you've removed the screws, don't store them in the sink because they'll go down the drain. Okay, now that the screws are out, it's pretty easy. Just sort of gently pry this away, breaking the silicone where you need to with your scraper, and gently remove the cubby from the pedestal. Door comes right off. There's the cubby underneath it. And now we have access to underneath the sink. I'm going to go ahead and clean this silicone off right now because I'm going to have to do it to replace it anyway. So I'm going to get to that next. So I've cleaned up all that silicone residue. And regardless of what type of RV you've got, the one thing we're all going to need to do to pull this off is to get access to the back side of the plumbing fixture that is our shower. So that's what all this was about. The other thing we're all going to need to do is we're all going to need to drain the water from our RV, because when I start disconnecting lines under here, it would make a terrible mess if I hadn't winterized the RV first. So we're winterized right now. I'm going to show you the underside of the fixture, and then we'll start connecting the valve. Okay, it's very tight in here. But if you look up there, you can see the two connections where our shower is connected. Now this one is the hot water line. So that's where we're going to add the check valve. Okay, so the first step is I'm just going to unscrew this connection from the side of the hot water side of the fixture. Now that we've exposed the threads there, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to wrap some Teflon tape around them. This is going to be fun to try to video. This is not as easy as it looks. So now we're going to screw on the check valve. When you get a check valve, if you don't happen to get the same one that I've got, you're going to want to make sure it'll be indicated on there which way the water actually flows. In this case, it's stamped in there with a little arrow. You're going to want to make sure that's actually flowing the right way for your installation. All right, here we go. While it's tempting to actually get like a big 1-inch wrench and just crank this thing down unbelievably tight, I'm not going to do that because these are all plastic fittings and fixtures under here, and I'm pretty sure I would just break something if I cranked on it with a big foot-long wrench. So I'm going as hard as I can get it hand tight, which for me is pretty tight. Okay, now that that check valve is on there, I'm just going to take the hot water line that was there before, and I've made sure I've still got my cone washer in there so it'll seal up nicely. And I'm going to just screw that onto the bottom side of the check valve. So here we go. And again, I am just going to do this hand tight. And there we go. Now, it might be tempting to seal up the cabinet at this point, but I'm going to wait until I've checked for leaks and done a lot of tests before I do that. So it's time to fill the RV back up with water, and we can see if it worked. Okay, so I've filled the RV with water, and I've even pumped it into the hot water, and I've been waiting for a half an hour or so for the water to heat up. During that time when I was waiting, I left the pump on so that I could check to make sure that this fixture I just modified is not leaking. One of the ways I like to do that is just to get a dry tissue, wipe it all around the fixture, and see if there is any water on it at all. And I'm good. So this is leak-free. So now it's time to see if we actually fix the problem. So I'm going to get this to like a shower temperature. Good. Turn on. Shower head. All right, now I'm going to shut off the shower head. It's leaking a little. I think that's kind of expected. It's not leaking under there. So now, previously, this would start to get cold in just a minute. So I'm going to give this 1 minute and then we'll come back and see when I turn it back on if I get cold water. Okay, so that's been about a minute. I'm going to turn this back on. And I'm still getting a little bit of cold water there. All right, I think I know what's happening. Well, what was happening was the leaky shower head was actually allowing the cold water to push all the warm water out of the shower hose. And so I was winding up with this whole hose full of cold water. Now, it wasn't getting back into the hot water because of the check valve that I had installed, but it was still leaving me with a whole hose full of cold water, which is still unpleasant. So then I thought, hey, let's get a shutoff valve and install that right at the faucet, and that'll stop the leak. So off I went to the local home center, and I bought a shutoff valve. And I got back and installed it, and lo and behold, it still leaked. So I went back to the home center and I checked every other valve they had in the store, and they all leaked too. And then I got really curious and I went in the house and I checked the shower heads that we have in the house, and they leaked. So apparently leaking on purpose is just epidemic in the North American shower industry. Why? I've researched online and I couldn't find any law, regulation, or ruling by a governing body as to why it is that all shower head shutoff fixtures have to leak. But if someone knows, you can go ahead and leave a comment on our website and I'll run it down. Now, the leading theory on the internet is that this leaking on purpose is done to prevent what they call crossflow. And that's exactly the problem we were having. By letting some water leak out, the theory goes, you prevent the situation where you could have the hot water potentially backing up into the cold water and leading to a scalding situation. Or at least that's how the marketing material on this reads. Now, that would be a great solution to the problem if it weren't for two things. Number one, it wastes water. And number two, it doesn't work at all. If you ignore those two things and some pretty basic fluid mechanics, yeah, the leaking on purpose is a great idea. So I scoured the internets for a shower shutoff valve that actually shuts off the water. And I think I found one. I'm going to put a link to it on our website so you can try it if you want to. We're going to install it now and we're going to see if this actually solves the problem or if I get scalded. Here's a hint. I'm not going to get scalded. Okay, so I'm going to remove this hose. Now I could install this shutoff valve up here at the shower head, but I want to put it as close as possible to the check valve. So I'm going to install it right here. So I've taken this off. Set that aside for now. Got our shutoff valve. I'm going to remove this to make it easy to twist on. I'm going to put this washer on. I actually tried a little bit of Teflon tape. It doesn't require it. Just screw that on. And again, just finger tight. There we go. I'll put the hose right back on. All right, so that was all of a 30-second install. Let's get some water going and see if it works. All right, so I've got some shower temperature water here. We're going to make sure the valve is open, and we're going to turn on the shower. I've got shower temperature water here. Now, I'm going to use the shutoff valve here. It's stopping leaking. Why, I believe it is. So now we're going to wait a minute, and then we'll see when I turn it back on if I get scalded, or if I get frozen, or if it works as it's supposed to. So, 1 minute. Okay, it's been a minute, so imagine now that you're all lathered up and you've got soap in your eyes, it's stinging, you're fumbling around trying to turn on the shower. Here we go. Am I going to get scalded? Hark! No! It's shower temperature water. Look at that. How about that? All right, I'm calling this a success. What the entire North American shower industry with its silly leaky valves couldn't accomplish, we accomplished with a proper shutoff valve and a check valve. So now, when we take showers, we'll have constant temperature water. We won't have leaks when we're soaping up, and we're good to go. That's it for now. This is James from the Fit RV. We'll see you later.